let Rocky know when we're ready.
All right, I think we're ready, Rocky, whenever you're ready to take it away.
Where's his gavel? You probably better do the call the meeting to order.
Just knock on the elevator behind you.
All right, we're gonna call this meeting, regular city commission meeting to order for August 4th, 2021. Let's do the roll call.
So, Rocky Smith, Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Here.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Present.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Here.
and Mayor Rachel Lyle Smith is absent today.
Due to illness.
Okay, let's, if we want to do the flag salute, let's have someone lead it from the commission chambers if there's, because I think there is public there, so maybe Commissioner McGriff could do.
I was gonna volunteer Commissioner Morrow.
Okay, well, that's fine.
We get to do this. It's over there.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, and I do not believe we have any ceremonies or proclamations this evening. And that will bring us to citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments this evening?
Yes, we have quite a few of them, actually. The first one is Tom. Tom?
Please introduce yourself and city of residence.
Are both the microphones on?
Yes.
Good evening, commissioners. I was going to say mayor, but she's not here. My name's Tom Guile. I live in Oregon City. Hold on a second. I got some notes here. You know, I'm all typically not at a loss for words. After 11 years of volunteering, 3 years as chair of the CIC, 8 years on the planning commission, I thought I'd seen it all. But after last meeting of the commission, and conversation over tipping off Icon and other developers about changes being made to code, I tried to find the right words to express how I felt. But not just me, my neighborhood. We all were out in the middle of the street talking about what had happened. Even the Portland Tribune. Embarrassing that chicanery, what we call chicanery, in Oregon City made it all the way to the Portland Tribune, and this on the heels that one of our own planning commissioners is suing our city. At first, I was disgusted that night, exasperated, confused. This turned to comprehending the reasoning after chatting with Dirk, the president of the Planning Commission. But still, disgusted and exasperated by what many of us see as enabling developers to continue to skirt our codes to overdevelop our communities. It was also so disturbing that I felt that if this is a standard operating procedure, why weren't the elected officials, commissioners and mayor who truly represent the voters not informed before surprising them at a commission meeting? Our Trailview neighborhood is now rightfully concerned that our planning department is in the back pocket of Icon. It leaves us to wonder how many more variances, how many more favors, how many more slips will be granted to Icon before this debacle of the Park Place concept plan area is approved and completed. In the end, I'm here for a lot of words. I'm just kind of speechless beyond those, what I just said. I just exasperated for the most part. And good luck, commissioners, because I hope someday you get all the truth before you come to a commission meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Jacob, who's next?
So the next one's going to be Carla Laws.
Okay.
Should I leave my mask on while I speak, or? Okay.
You're far enough apart.
My name's Carla Laws. I live in Oregon City, and I'm coming here on behalf, I'm not coming here for my neighborhood association exactly. I am the chair of Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association, and I am seeing things that are upsetting for not only me, but my neighbors, especially on Mountain View and Holmes. We have a land use going in, it's gonna possibly be appealed, so we're not gonna talk about any of that. But the neighbors there don't feel like they're being heard. A lot, I would say 2/3 of the neighbors have no idea what's going on as far as I know of, based on word of mouth and talking to other neighbors. A land use was put up on Holmes, it was behind bushes. A lot of the people are there are totally unaware. And I, got a response from planning, and I said, hey, there were 5 other residents who left their addresses. And I got a PDF, or zip file. And none of those neighbors, are, you look at equity, we're talking about equity with our city, right? And a lot of those neighbors are limited to devices. They may not own a computer. They may have limited data on their phones. And the ones who possibly got a file, and not all of them, got 202 pages that they needed to open up. I actually had to print one out for a neighbor, which cost me a discount of $15. And these neighbors just don't have the access to the technology to be really informed, and it's not fair to them. And I'm just really, some of the neighbors got notice on July 22nd and literally did not get the packet until last Wednesday. And then they're expected to respond in 14 days from July 22nd. So it's really upsetting to me. I feel like the neighbors aren't being advocated for or heard, that our own city does not look out for them. Anyways, I just wanted to give you all a heads up. I appreciate everything you do, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Jacob, is the clock visible for the public? Because I don't see it on the screen, so I'm just curious.
Yes, so we have the clock going on in here. I'll let you know
Okay,
if the time goes up.
That's fine. That's fine. All right, and next.
The last one is Dee Dee.
Hi, my name is Dee Dee Dahlster. I live in Oregon City since 1975. I had contacted our planning department, some concerns I had several months ago, some stones on 7th and Harrison. Well, yesterday at 4 o'clock, I opened up an email, and I hope I'm saying her name appropriately. Diliana sent me an email and said, we have till Sunday to move those stones, or they'll be hauled away on Monday. So I'm looking at the clock going, city's closed. I was on the phone with Laura. Shucks. So I start typing out emails, calling, texting people. I call first John to get him going, this place is closed. He's not going to see that email until tomorrow morning. So we have to secure a secure place for it. We need people to haul this stuff. We need trailers. I called Dirk. I called Armando. I called Jerry Haynes. Bingo. Once again, Jerry Haynes is our savior. He's bringing a truck, a crew, a trailer. He has gotten a donation from Pioneer Rentals. Thank you, Pioneer Rentals. We are bringing materials, so when we roll those stones off, we do not damage the sidewalks. Then we're lifting them up, loading them up, and then by 7 a.m., John was bingo with an email going, we got to get Vince on this. I called Vince. Vince said, we need to get these things on pallets wrapped. And so I said, how about if we stage it up at the 8 Air building? They had already proved it for me by 7:30 in the morning. And so these stones are being saved. I thought I measured them at 32 feet. I only counted one of my feet at 60 feet of stone, 3 high. We have just about 100 stone. Vance expressed his appreciation this morning. He'll be on there Monday to assess it. We've even got pallets that we can give the city just in case they don't have pallets, so he can stack them and get them behind a locked gate up at Waterboard Park for city restoration. Vance, when he was expressed to me, when they were restoring the accident that happened that destroyed the stairs, they had a heck of a time sourcing those stones, and the developer said they're harder than heck to get. We need to save those stones only for our city. It does not need to go up privately to people's homes unless it has something to do with our city historical facades. So we're so lucky to have gotten these stones. And so this is me giving you guys a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We worked, and it's not even 24 hours, and I'm here saying thank you to all of you. Okay, do I have any more minutes? Any more thing left?
30 seconds.
25 seconds.
Okay, 25 seconds. Changing mode. I would like to invite all of our commissioners and mayor. I'd like to invite our NRC, our Parks Commission, anything that has something to do with canopy, all of our heritage tree people. Because I was contacted by the state of Oregon, really embarrassed, to be the Oregon State hero, heritage tree hero. I am really a thorny tree, folks. It's all the other committees, the NRC, the parks committees that come in and help, the Oregon State PF. So I'm really encouraging you all to meet me at 11 o'clock. I'm coming with soft ice cream coupons from Mike's to meet out front of City Hall because they're going to give me a certificate or a handshake. I don't know.
What day, Dee
And
Dee?
Raymond's going to take a picture from Pamphlet Media.
What
It's a
day?
good cloud for us all. So
What
pat ourselves
day?
on the back.
What day?
Oh, August 11th. I thought you were saying, get off there. I used to time. Because we know how Vera the squirrel is. But anyway, August 11th at 6 p.m. on these stairs out front. Please come.
You said
Get
6
your
p.m.
faces
or
on
11
trigger.
a.m.?
Huh?
11 a.m. or 6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
6
right
p.m.
before NRC meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dee Dee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dee Dee, and I heard Commissioner Griff mention that the name was Jerry Herman. I think that's who you were talking about. And so I wanted to make sure the public heard
Not
that.
Jerry Herman.
Right. And so thank you. I'm actually really happy about that, quick acting, citizens as well. So that's really cool. So we've had a request this evening from, Commissioner O'Donnell to speak, as a citizen only for citizen comment. So I will let you speak if that's what you would like to do.
I would. So it's important to note I am speaking as a private citizen, and I'm speaking to the city commission, the city staff, and the public at large. I want to say that there's many positive things that happen in the city that go unrecognized, whether it be public safety or water or the streets or whatever. And it's been said that as long as the water runs and the toilets flush, the government doesn't hear from people. But recent events, as have been noted by a number of speakers tonight, citizens, tell me that there's some concern in the community. And one of those is that commission efforts seem to have derailed by staff by virtue of failure to notify the commission of their practice of notifying developers in the pre-app stage of pending changes. And the citizens and I view that as a multi-level failure, a failure at the director position, at the city manager position, since the city manager is in fact a former senior planner. Apparently it's a long-term practice, and staff should have or could have even notified the city commission of that practice even after the emergency basis action was taken by the commission. The second issue that's causing concern in the community is commission efforts in supporting the Historic Review Board rules of development in Kenema have been placed in jeopardy by staff not paying proper attention to the 120-day rule. And as a result, we're incurring unnecessary legal fees, and the outcome is to be determined. The third issue causing concern in the community and to me is the failure to renew the dredging permit at the mouth of the cove, and it impacts marketability, water quality, and potentially allowing a public health problem. I think that needs to be looked into. How was the decision made? Was it actually a decision or an oversight? And as a policy matter affecting public safety and economic development, why was the city commission not consulted? The public perception is the city government as a whole, and many citizens don't understand that the relationship between their volunteer and unpaid city commission and the city staff. The citizens always question if the city is acting in their best interests, and confidence in both the city commission and actions taken by the city staff has suffered. The perceived errors that I just spoke about above, they seem to have no consequences as far as the public is concerned. So the solution is, for those watching at home, to clarify and restate the reporting structure. Only the elected officials are held responsible to the citizens, and only the city manager and the municipal judge are under the direction of the city commission. Other departments report to and are responsible to the city manager, and he's responsible he alone is responsible for their performance. Understand that no one commissioner or mayor can direct the actions of the city manager. We must have a consensus or majority of the members present. And I think the solution to that is I believe we need to have an executive session, have that discussion. We, at you of being the commission. Actions should have consequences. All city manager actions, including personnel actions, should be visible and shared with the commission, or how else can the commission evaluate the performance of the city manager? The information provided by staff should be thorough and reviewed for omissions which could impact commission decision-making, as I cited above. So the summary, briefly, is this message is not meant to be unkind. The goal of this citizen presentation is an outcome that instills citizen confidence in city government and the staff that supports city government. Citizens should be viewed as our external customers of the city government and staff, and city commission and city staff are mutual internal customers. And don't lose sight of that. Every organization should strive to improve, as should we. And finally, our fellow citizens have the right to expect positive outcomes and not excuses. And every action should send the message that we're listening to you. And that's the conclusion of my statement as a citizen of Oregon City. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other citizen comment this evening?
No.
All right. Hearing none, we will go to the adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda or a removal or to take an item off the consent agenda to discuss? Commissioner McGriff.
Yes, I'd like to move that we accept the consent agenda except for item 7A.
Okay. Any other? I have the same item that I'd like to discuss. And then I guess my question is, how connected is 7B to that? I believe that they're connected. And I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Well, I'm hopeful that we can agree on the item 7A and wouldn't affect 7B. 7B is a contract award for an amendment that would help us stay on schedule with completing the Fifth Street improvements. The tree that we're talking about, I'm not sure there's dispute about whether the tree should be removed. It was more about whether or not the tree should be replaced in place or should the material be reused. So I guess I'm hoping we can get to some resolution on that.
So how about we pull 7A, 7B, make them 9, H and I, and we'll add them under general business if there's questions, if they're related.
Okay.
And we can discuss the details of each.
That sounds fine. So does anyone want to move to approve the consent agenda, which would be 7C?
Okay, well, I'll amend my motion to include 7B.
I'll second the motion as amended.
So Commissioner
Need a motion, but you can go ahead.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, and any motion for the consent agenda, which would be 7C?
I think we approved 7C and moved 7A and 7B to general business. So I think we're good to go to public hearings.
Thank you, the minutes were very thorough.
Okay. All right, so we have public hearings. We have item 8A, resolution number 2142, calling for an election to authorize borrowing funds for water system improvements to the electors of Oregon City. And staff on this would be Public Works Director John Lewis. Are we opening a public hearing or did we close that?
We would ask that you please open the public hearing for both items, and we did receive a public comment for one of the items, so we just want to state that for the record, and at that time, accept it into the record. And then at the end of the presentation, and see if there's any public here to speak. If there are none, then at that time, we would close the public hearings for both. Thank you.
I will open the public hearings for both, and I will go to staff. And John Lewis, please.
Thank you, Commission President Smith. So this is a continuation of this topic we had at our last meeting. Patty Nelson did all the presentation on that last one. She's going to do all the presentation on this one as well. So Patty, thank you very much.
All right, good evening. So I'm back again to talk about our resolutions. We've made some updates based on the feedback from July 21st. And let's see if I can get this thing going. There we go. A little bit of an update on the presentation. I wanted to review it for the public, kind of how do we get here? So, master plan's a big overview for rates and fees, looking at the capital improvements that we have to fund, and then highlighting the rate study that was looked at in the basis of these ballot measures, and then voter approval needed, and then the review of the updates of the measures. Oop, come on.
I think you have to turn it on the side.
Oh,
Sorry.
got used to the other place.
My bad. And then now you should get it.
Okay. All right, so just a general overview. So master plans are developed for all of our infrastructure for water specifically, but that's what we're talking about tonight. But they're done on a regular basis, so every 5 to 10 years. They're looking at what do we need to improve in our system to accommodate a 20-year horizon. So that's looking at today as well as 20 years ahead. And then part of that is looking at a financial plan. So once we have that plan in place, you adopt a financial plan to support that. And revenues for water come from water rates and systems development charges. Implementation then really depends on if we've adopted the rates and fees. And I wanted to highlight that because I think some citizens may not be aware, but we've had a series of master plans, but we haven't necessarily adopted the rate increases necessary to fully fund those plans. So back in 2004, I could find information related to updating the SDCs, but we kept our rates at 3%. In 2012, that's when a ballot measure was looked at to withdraw the rollback provision. And so the interest in pursuing also a rate increase needed to fund the plan was not pursued, and at that time was identified as 6%. But the city kept it at 3%. So again, you're underfunding the needed improvements. And so now we have our updated master plan. We've adopted the SDCs, but we're trying to catch up on the deferred improvements. So our water master plan calls for $81 million of capital improvements. 47% of that is needed in the next 5 years. And I think that's important to note. We've talked about kicking the can down the road. There's a number of improvements that have been identified for a number of years, and it's catching up to us. We need it now. So some of the highlights are repair and upgrade. I actually pulled some stats, and I wanted to just,
Patty, you're clicking.
oh my gosh. I didn't touch anything.
No, it's just me for a second. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, that's just
All
a
right.
technical issue.
So repair and upgrade, we have a lot of old pipe. And I know last time I brought in my rusty pipe, and I actually talked to a citizen, and they said to me, gosh, I heard this story before, and it's true. And the bottom line is we have 91,000 linear feet of pipe that we need to replace. And it's $18 million. And we simply haven't had the money to replace it all. So again, we're trying to get that work done. We're trying to improve water service for all. So there's areas of town where we have issues with pressure and also supply. We talked about the upper zone, which is out by the Beaver Creek area. We're stretched really thin there. There's a lot of growth there. There's a lot of demand, and we've talked about transmission issues. So trying to get those pumps and pumping the water up to the reservoir is really challenging. And so that makes it especially difficult in the summer. And then system resiliency. So, I mean, after this, I put on here a wake-up call from last year because the wildfires really concerning. And even this year, I think you saw a curtailment,
not a curtailment requirement, but a notification. And the reality is, when we are hot weather, we're having more hot weather, there's a higher demand for water. And if we have wildfires and having huge water demands for that fighting the fires, we're stretched very thin. We haven't hit an issue where we haven't been able to fight them, but we don't want to get there. And the ice storm was also a wake-up call. So we lost power for, or South Fork lost power for 3 days. And so we didn't have our water supply. And I think our operations guys said they've never seen our reservoirs so low. So storage needs in the master plans have been identified in the last few master plans, and we still haven't built our reservoirs. So having those added reservoirs not only helps support the growth, but it's also providing added storage for fighting and providing water service to our customers in those difficult times. This is another point I wanted to make. I had talked to a citizen and they were asking, geez, well, if we borrow money, but I want to keep the rates at 3%. And I think it's really important. We talked to the commission about this, and I want the public to understand this is kind of a joint package. If we had our way, we put it in one ballot measure, but we can't. So we have to separate the ballot measures, but they go hand in hand. So if the ballot measures were to pass just the borrowing, we literally would not have enough money to pay back that loan. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is this is from the rate model that was run. This is a debt option, so it's assuming we're borrowing money. And what I've highlighted there is a 3% charter limit where it takes us, and it does not cover the payment of the required loan. So we actually need approval of the rate increase above the 3% charter limit. Now, we've asked for the up to 6%, but we're hopeful that if the voters approve the borrowing and the rate provision, we can pursue this option, which would be a minimal increase to over the rate or the charter limit, which is that 4% there, for 6 years. That's a temporary aspect, and then borrowing $38 million. So voter approval is needed. We've talked about that. Either way, we need approval to go over the charter limit of 3%. We're looking at taking on a debt. That's something the commission wanted to propose. It's a balanced approach rather than trying to pay for it as we go, which would require a higher rate limit. Our city charter, section 58, section 47, and section 57 require voter approval. And again, we've broken it into two ballot measures. Looking at the road ahead, today is the last day. Actually, we need to adopt, if you choose, adopting the ballot measure to be able to make it in time for the November election. And this is a timeline for that. One thing I wanted to highlight is keys to success. So we know that the citizens feel like we have credibility. That was actually something that we heard in our opinion polls. But we have a lot of work ahead of us in terms of educating the public. But another key piece is we can't do it without you, and we can't do it without the community advocates. It's a really key piece because once we file, and Katie, correct me on this, but once we file the ballot measures, really everything has to go through the state from what's it called?
A safe harbor.
Safe harbor. So as a staff, there's actually laws that prohibit, public staff for like campaigning, right? That makes sense. So that's where I put a baton here because really it's handing over that baton. And we really need the community, we need you as the elected officials to stand behind us and help us as part of the team to try to get the work done. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is to provide the community with resilient, reliable water system, and we can make it happen. So that's what's before you is the ballot measures. So the borrowing ballot measure, again, looks at the charters for 47 and 58. The resolution reads, a resolution calling for an election to authorize borrowing money for water system improvements to the electors of Oregon City. That was a change we made from last week. We did get approval to not say borrowings, which I think is a good change. It's still the 38 million, and the repayment is over a 20 to 30 year period. So the ballot measure language, gosh, I'm getting, see. Katie, can I take off my mask? Yeah. The language reads, authorize the city to borrow funds for water system improvements. the question, shall Oregon City be authorized to borrow up to the amount of 38 million for water system improvements? And the summary hasn't changed significantly, but we did make some changes to accommodate the safe harbor provisions, or at least attempting to. Excuse me. And then there's an explanation statement, which also has to be adopted by the commission. We didn't make many major changes on that. Again, it was just cleaning up some language. And this is where I think we're taking this piece by piece, right? So I'm looking for adoption of the resolution and the explanatory statement. The options you have are to approve the resolution explanatory statement as presented, or approve as amended, or deny the resolution and provide us direction.
Oh, you're on mute. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, is that the report then?
That is the complete one for the first resolution, the borrowing resolution.
Okay, so let's ask if there's any citizen comment on this item.
So this would be 8A, and we don't have anybody registered to speak on 8A, but we do have someone registered to speak on 8B.
Oh, we'll
Okay,
get there.
wait till we get to that one, correct? Or are you doing them
Correct.
together?
Nope, we'll do them separate. Thank you.
All right, so we will now take any comment or input from the commission.
I have a question for Mr. Conkle. Since this is not a land use application of any sort, so do we need to close the public hearing, or we close the public hearing after deliberation? How are we handling this?
You can handle it in a variety of different ways. Typically, the public hearing gets closed and then the commission deliberates. You could have the public deliberations during the public hearing, but, typically.
We don't, okay. Well, I'd like to move that we close the public hearing since we don't have anybody to speak on this item.
So at the beginning of this agenda item, I asked specifically that question, was told we were doing them together, and then I was told we're doing them separate. So let's decide what we're doing here.
I would like to do them separately. Commissioner Morrow, you have any comments about that?
I agree.
I think it would be wise to do them separately.
All right, so that was the motion, correct? Was it seconded?
I'll second that. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we've closed the public hearing for the 8A item, and now we are going to the commission for comment or input, direction.
I only can raise my real hand because I don't have the other hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I looked at this particular resolution, and I think that the changes that were made as per our direction have clarified it further, and I don't really have any other questions or comments regarding this particular Resolution 2142.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Well, I think the first question is going to be, the presentation shows that all we need is an increase of 1% from 3 to 4, plus the borrowing. So the question is, why are we asking for up to 6? The second thing, and I'll say this, and I want the voters to have the ability to vote on this. I mean, this is their city. But I still don't like the language in the explanatory statement or the ballot measure language. It just says the city seeks a balanced approach to fully fund the water system improvements, minimizing rate increases above the 3% charter limit. It's still, to me, vague. It doesn't plainly speak that we're looking at increasing the current 3% as much as 3%. And I won't get in the way of it tonight because we're up against the deadline, but I don't like the way it's written. I think it's too vague. So that's my comment.
All right, Commissioner Morrow? Oh, sorry.
And Commissioner O'Donnell, it sounds like your comments were directed at 8B, dealing with the water rate measure as opposed to 8A, the borrowing measure, because the borrowing measure doesn't appear to have that language. Is that correct? Or
No, that's not correct. I'm actually looking at the explanatory statement for 8A.
Okay,
I've got more in-depth issues with 8B.
okay.
Are you talking about the one that says Oregon City ballot measure language / borrowing? That's the one you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was on the right one.
I like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
How far on our word limit are we? Are we at the limit?
Are you referring to the explanatory statement
Yeah, it says
limit?
we can only have 175 words.
Summary.
Yeah,
We're probably there, is what I suspect. I'm just trying to figure out how it could be made clear for Commissioner O'Donnell.
You don't have to fix it for me. Those are my observations. The general public will react to it as they see fit. That's my reaction to it.
do you mind if we pull a couple things up on the screen so that we can make sure we're all talking about the same thing? So can you give us just a second and I'm gonna pull up a couple items?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I may have led to the confusion because I was looking at, I think, the explanatory statement rather than the summary portion of the ballot title. And the summary portion of the ballot title is where Commissioner O'Donnell's comments are directed, and that does, in the borrowing measure, it absolutely talks about seeking a balanced approach. And I apologize for adding to the confusion.
And I take issue with both the ballot title statement and the explanatory statement. But I won't get in the way of this because it needs to go before the voters.
Okay, so this, what I'm gonna share is the ballot title, for 8A.
Which is Exhibit A, right?
Which is Exhibit A. And so it has the caption, the question, and the summary. And so you're referring to the section that says this part right here? Is that what I understood?
Minimizing rate, yeah, correct. And maybe it's moot. Maybe the second measure, 8B, is the one that really clarifies it as a standalone. I think it could be more informative to the voters.
So in general, so this is a very tight, there's only a set number of words. So what we tried to do is explanatory statement is to expand on that and to provide further explanation.
Again, I won't get in the way.
If you want, there could be an option to eliminate that piece altogether, that sentence.
I think where it's wordy is where the plan starts identifying projects to strengthen water system, improve ability to recover from wildfire, major storms, and drought. I mean, there's key elements in there, providing safe, reliable water and strengthening the water system. And that would save a lot of words if we just stayed with that and then give the people the nice, clean statement. We're talking about, if you really want to do this, if you go from 3 to 6.
So this is the borrowing measure. Part of that went into the ballot language, I guess. It's feedback from what we heard from the public in terms of our polling and outreach, and in words that they need to understand, how they understand the improvements. And so that's part of the way that we've formed that first paragraph. And then the second piece, part of the key point with that minimizing, linking the borrowing with the minimizing of the rate increase, was again trying to link the two ballot measures. And as we discussed before, it's a challenge, right, to help the public understand that these two are interrelated. And so that's the intent of that first sentence in the second paragraph.
Well, for the third time, I won't stand in the way of it. You wrote it, and we'll see how it flies, if it causes confusion or if it's approved as written. So I will not stand in the way of it because of tonight's the last night. You need something to get it on the ballot.
Is there any other comments by the commission?
Yeah, Commissioner Smith, I think that I understand the idea of making sure that the two are linked, but I think I tend to agree with the comment made that it kind of muddies the water a little bit. One, to me, is very clearly indicating that it's borrowing, and the other one, 2143, which we're not talking about yet, is clearly talking about water rate increase. This one's, and I have, in the comments that I have received by phone and in person and by email, don't have any issues with the borrowing part.
And I believe the same sentence that's in there is also in the rate.
Which is where it should be.
Again, the intent of that sentence is to link the two ballot measures so that people understand that in borrowing, we're able to not increase the rate as much over the 3%. And to Commissioner O'Donnell's question in terms of the why 4 to 6, and we can get into that when we talk further with the rate measure, we have up to, and again, it's to try to provide flexibility to the commission. It's a big investment and effort to go after the election. And so in the event that we do not get authorization for borrowing, having an up to amount allows us to increase the rates to a higher rate, which will allow us to pay for the improvements as we go, since we will not have the debt.
Is the sentence, the city seeks a balanced approach to fully fund the water system improvements, minimize rate increases by the 3% charter limit by borrowing money required by the bond attorney?
What she said the sentence before was a lot clearer than that.
It's not required by the
Okay,
bond.
so can the commission decide whether they'd like that sentence in there or not?
Yes.
Okay, would the commission like that sentence to be removed?
I like what she said before about if we pass the borrowing, we don't have to raise the rates as much. That's pretty clear.
So simpler
Well, but
language.
we don't know
I
how
know.
much, I mean, essentially, we're asking for an up to 6%
Right,
total,
that's
so an
me.
additional
If it
3%.
makes it clear, I'd say take it out.
Well, I guess I'm looking for a motion from the commission whether they'd like to approve the ballot title as proposed, or if they'd like to remove that sentence.
Or change it.
Commissioner O'Donnell, I'm looking at you.
I just want to ask a question. Can one ballot measure refer to another? For example, can this ballot measure, is that already answered?
No, I think Bill was going to answer that.
Yeah,
Can this ballot measure, 2142, refer to, in its explanatory statement, C 2143 for explanation on fundraising to support, something like that?
yes, they can refer to each other.
But the numbers wouldn't make sense.
Right.
So we won't get an actual ballot measure number until we submit this in writing. And so once it's submitted, it's submitted. And so we won't be able to say, please see ballot number blah, blah,
Whatever it
blah
is.
for the other measure that the city of Oregon City is
Trying to do.
proposing.
Right, we won't know that.
Okay,
Would
so they have to stand alone.
So are you okay with my making a recommendation to take that sentence out?
I don't know if it serves, I don't even know at this point. Whatever the consensus of the group is, I'll go with.
I know, but I'm asking you. I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, if you take it out, it leaves it open-ended. It's actually, it doesn't say, well, even as written, it doesn't say what the maximum increase we would do in this, and maybe it's not necessary in this. This just seeks authority to borrow.
Right.
Right.
I was trying to figure out, okay, if we say the city seeks a balanced approach to fully fund the water system improvements by minimizing rate increases.
I do think these edits, unless they appear as a fatal flaw, my watch of I had a chance to look at it, Tony had a chance to look at it, Bill had a chance to look at it, the
Bond attorneys.
bond attorney had a chance to look at it. Patty took all that information and worked it through and then flipped it back to him. We understand the concern about confusion with rate increase, and we're trying to do that. It does have a confusing element to it because we've got a current 3% limit. So to me, this does help tie the two together. It helps tie. It doesn't directly tie, but it helps tie, and I think it's necessary information.
All right, well, I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2142 as written. I tried.
Is there a second? I will second.
So I'll start calling the roll. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Abstain.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Commissioner Adam Marl. Aye. Motion passes.
All right, 8B, resolution number 2143, calling for an election to authorize water rate increases of up to 3% annually above the charter limit for 6 years to the electors of Oregon City. We'll open the public hearing and we'll have a staff report. That'll be Public Works Director John Lewis and I assume
It's
Patty Nelson.
That's correct. Thank you, Commission President.
All right, so this ballot measure is focused on rates. It is linked with the borrowing, as we've just discussed. It's related to City Charter Provision, Section 58, which limits water rate increases to 3%. Any increase over that requires voter approval, which we are seeking. The Resolution 2143 has been up, I don't know if we updated this, but we did update some of the language, but a resolution submitting a measure to authorize water rate increases for up to 3% annually above the charter limit for 6 years to the electors of Oregon City. This is a temporary increase and limited to 6 years. The rate increase authorizes up to, so it's not set. Again, water rates would be set after the election results are known, and we would come back to the commission and present updated rate model and then ask for adoption of the final rates. The ballot measure language, I've tried to highlight the changes since our July 21st, incorporating feedback that we received. The caption reads, authorize temporary water rate increase above 3% annual charter limit. The question has been updated to reflect May. City increased water rates up to 3% over charter limit for 6 years for water system improvements. Also, the summary section has been updated to include a description of what the impacts would be over the 6-year period, addressing that compounding concern that had been raised. Again, there's an explanatory statement which provides further detail for the voters to better understand what this ballot measure is about. And we're asking for you to consider adoption of Resolution 2143, a resolution submitting a measure authorizing water rate increases up to 3% annually above the charter limit for 6 years to the electors of Oregon City, as well as the explanatory statement. The options we put before you are to adopt the resolution explanatory statement, approve as amended, or deny and provide as direction.
So Commission President Smith, why don't we, I think we have one public comment for this one. Why don't we invite for public comment and then we'll circle back with staff for questions if that's acceptable?
Yes, let's do that.
Did we also receive something in writing?
We did.
Yes, we did.
I'd like to address that as well.
So we have William Gifford, please.
City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. I completely understand the importance of water. As far as I'm concerned, a community cannot exist without it, and it's my number one priority. And I understand also that the age of our infrastructure is such, because we happen to be such an old city, that we need to do something about our infrastructure. That's not a question at all. I have no issues with the fact that we need to improve our infrastructure. The process concerns me a little bit, and I'm going to give you a comparison. A few years ago, some of you may remember that we had another infrastructure issue, and that was our pavement. And we developed a pavement maintenance utility fee to address that. That fee was carefully considered by a large committee of stakeholders, not by a bunch of interviews or pollings. It was done by a committee, a broad spectrum of citizens. Some of the issues that they came up with was the equity of that fee as to who would pay for it. And they wanted to make sure that everyone paid for it because everyone uses the streets. And I imagine the same philosophy is regarding the water, that everyone will pay for this because everyone uses water. And I'm not sure how that gets back to the equity issue of who uses more water needs to pay for it. There was another component to that PMUF, the pavement maintenance utility fee, and that was a promise which has been upheld regarding a commitment of reporting. And I think Public Works has done a very fine job of keeping true to that promise, although it's all gone electric now, but of reporting every year as to how that payment money is used. But the key element that I find missing in this proposal is regarding the PMUF is that it was ramped up over a period of years. It did not get imposed all at the same time because the commission at that time wisely decided it was just too much of an ask. People don't like spending more money than they think they need to. And by asking a little bit at a time and stepping it up over a period of years was a much easier pill to swallow. I don't see anything like that in this process. I also heard a comment about the payback period on this loan of 38 million, potentially 38 million. That would be 20 to 30 years. That's a broad spectrum. I don't know why that isn't more carefully nailed down. I concur with Commissioner O'Donnell about the issue of why we can't have clear wording saying that we're going to cap this at 1%. And now I understand from this presentation that the reason we are not saying that we want to cap it at a 1% increase is because if we can't borrow the money, then we would have the authority to go up to 6%. It seems a bit disingenuous to me to not make that more blatant to the voters.
Rodney, for your information, it's 3 minutes.
I beg your pardon?
You're at your 3 minutes. I just wanted Commissioner Smith to know. He can't see the timer.
Yeah.
May I have another few seconds?
Few seconds, yes.
Thank you. As I think most of you know, I've worked on a lot of campaigns, gotten a lot of issues, and I know that voters tend to vote based on what they find in the voters' pamphlets. I would be happy to support this measure, but it's going to take some champions, some local organizations. It's going to take the Chamber of Commerce supporting it. It's going to take the Business Alliance. It's going to take every organization that we can find supporting this and explaining to people. But letters of approval in the voters' if you don't have one, this is a confusing issue. And all people are going to see is they can raise our rates 6%. And that's all they're going to see.
All right, thank you. Is there any other public comment on this item?
No, just the written comments.
Okay, the written comment, I believe, was from Craig Danielson. Is that correct?
Yes.
You can go ahead and close the public hearing if you would like and move to deliberations. and questions?
Commissioner Smith, could I ask a question, please, before we close the public hearing? I just want to make sure that we can, if it's whoever's going to, I just want to make sure that we can address, if it's possible, Mr. Danielson's comments. I received some information dated the 1st, let me see here, I think so. Yes, the 1st. And his comment, particularly the one that was a little concerning to me, it says, as noted by Public Works staff, additional capacity is paid for by property owners, SDC, as the system expands to address growth. And I don't think that is correct. I think it is correct that SDCs do pay for the growth, but the SDCs don't pay for existing system. And that's the whole concern, that we don't have a reliable source of funding to take care of the asset that we have in order to make it whole, because it's not whole right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's two components to funding: the systems development charges, which pays for growth, and we've already adopted the updated rates, those are in place. But the other component is the water rates, which are focused on the existing systems and upgrades.
Then the other comment that I'm aware of is that, and again, I'm not sure that this is correct, but it's a comment that increasing the base rate that will be added by the 6 years is going to be forever. And I don't believe that that is correct either, because there's a time limit on the increase.
Correct. So the increase is limited to 6 years in the ballot measure.
But your base is going to increase.
Yeah.
Right, so if your base under a failure of the ballot measure, theoretically, it would go up by the charter maximum of 3% a year.
Right.
Right, so your base would go up 3% a year.
Right. But that already does that now.
Correct, so if this passes, it would go up potentially 6% a year. So your base doesn't after 6 years, it's going to be higher.
Okay, that,
3 versus 6,
Six, right,
right? Yeah, it never it doesn't ratchet back down.
no, it reverts back to 3%.
The increase,
Right,
but
so-
you have,
So if the increase goes up to $9 and the 6 years is over, we get 3% on top of that
correct.
$9.
At 3% over 6 years, it would have been $8.
Right.
At 3% over 9 year, or 3%, it would have been $9. You're starting at the $9 and then 3%. It
Right.
doesn't go back to if it would have just been 3% all that time.
Right, so that I think was not, it's not increasing by 6% forever. It's increasing by 3% at the base, whatever that is, when the 6 years ends.
Correct.
And to help clarify that, in the explanatory statement, right before the water systems issue section, I did add a sentence saying water rates would return to 3% charter limit after the 6-year temporary increase, to try to provide clarification.
Right.
All right, let's close the public hearing, and we will have any other comments or direction from the commission.
Do we have Exhibit A?
Yes.
So in this, we really tried to highlight trying to explain that under the charter, you can go up 3% a year. And then with this, you could go up an additional 3% a year for a total of 6. So that last statement, the last sentence of the summary is trying to show the monetary difference between the two. Within the word limitations, I will admit it's difficult to try to differentiate what is a very simple concept when we say it goes up 3 or it's going to go up 6 and what that difference is. But trying to put that into a numerical demonstration of how much that's going to cost to the average household above the existing 3% limit is what we tried to capture in the summary.
All right, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Well, I get what Mr. Danielson was saying, and I think Tony paraphrased it, saying that the new base rate after 6 years is the one that was arrived at by the 6% impact over the 6 years, not the former 3%. So in a way, Mr. Danielson is right. We don't revert back to the pre-ballot measure base rate. So I think that's what he's saying. As much fun as we had with my water bill last time, when I look at the Oregon City ballot measure language, the water rates, the final paragraph is actually more in keeping with what I said my rates would be in 6 years versus currently, because you have to add, this it says for a typical household in 6 years, the monthly water rate would increase $5.63 under the current charter limit. It doesn't say current, but under the charter limit. And an additional $6.56 if the measure is fully implemented. You add those two together in 6 years, for me being a typical user at 5 cubic feet, it is in fact about the number I quoted. My bill will go up in 6 years about $130. So I think, I don't know if that's as good as it could possibly be in that last sentence, but I appreciate the effort. Again, this is the product of the staff and the consultants, and it's your product, and its success or failure is going to depend in some extent as to how it's been worded. So I'll leave it at that and let others contribute. Thanks.
Commissioner Smith, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I remember there being talk that DHM Research was involved with this. Were they just involved in the preliminary side of things, or were they also involved in the ballot language crafting?
So there's a team, there's Barney and Worth, and their sub is the DHM. DHM is a specialty firm, and they specifically worked with the polling. So working with different focus groups, stakeholder interviews, and whatnot, and then worked with Barney and Worth, who are more the experts with the word crafting and the expertise with the ballot language, I guess, not tricks and whatever, but they just have a lot of experience with that. So they worked in partnership. But I think Barney and Worth really took the lead in terms of helping. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is more the area where I come from, on the campaign side of things, and I think the world of DHM, and so the fact that they were involved in this is a huge positive for me. And I know that there are little things that we can squabble over, but I think that I'm ready to move forward with this. And I just want the community to know how important this is. When we were doing the stormwater rates a few months ago, I wanted to go at a higher level of service, but I ended up voting for the 80% because I want to be cognizant of the full picture here, that we're looking at several different rate increases, and I want the community to understand how important, how paramount this one is specifically. So that's why I voted the way I did a few months ago, and I appreciate the work being done here.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner O'Donnell, did you have another comment, or is that it?
No, that's an old hand, and I'll put it down.
Okay, Commissioner McGriff, do you have anything else to add?
No, I have received comments from the chamber, and their basic concern was getting clarification, which I believe Ms. Nelson was very helpful in that endeavor. I really think it gets down to trying to help the voters have an understanding. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Morrow that one of my big concerns is I'm not all, gung-ho to raise our rates, but I think between the two things, obviously I would prefer, we borrow everything and leave the rates as they are, but, we have two options, and we need to make sure that we cover our bases. I want the public to know that, I'm very keenly aware of different financial situations that are occurring in our community right now, and all of us have been subject to some sort of cutbacks in one way or the other, and I don't take this very lightly. What I have my concern about is that we can't continue to live for today and not plan for tomorrow. And I know that sounds a little cliche, but people who were in these seats before us were trying to look at the same thing. And holding the line has unfortunately, in hindsight, because how would they know? They couldn't see into the future, has basically put us under the 8 ball. I don't think 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we would have anticipated that we would have an ice storm. We didn't anticipate we'd have the wildfires like we've had. We did not anticipate that we would have an ice storm, which have severely compromised many of our services. And I think that that is a little bit of a wake-up call. As I said at a previous meeting, I don't want us to be in the front page of the Oregonian with a big giant sinkhole in our city because our 150-year-old pipes exploded, and now we've got double the trouble because now we have to fill the hole, we have to fix the pipe, we have to repair the road, we have to take care of the utilities. I mean, it just goes on and on and on that I can see cascading problems. So I think that hopefully the community will look at it beyond the standpoint of, okay, it's affecting me today, but how will it affect me tomorrow and the day after that and the year from now and beyond that? And we cannot continue to be limited in our ability to anticipate things that we need. And unfortunately, we're in a position now, we don't know what we don't know because we can't predict the weather. We can't predict what's happening in terms of our climate. We cannot predict, we could get zapped by another ice storm. I mean, heaven forbid that we do, but we didn't think it would happen, and it's happening. So I am concerned for the members of our community, but part of what we have to do is look at how we deal with our community in the future as well. So that's all I really want to say.
All right. I also want to add to this a little bit. I appreciate Mr. Gifford's comments. I do feel similar in the sense that, one, we can't continue to kick the can down the road, but this also is a big pill to swallow. However, I've been worried about this for some time in terms of how many asks we can go out to the community for. And I'm shockingly and more shockingly surprised every time we do and how often things pass. There's been a lot of giant pills that have been sent out there to the public that have passed by the public, including the school bond and a lot of other things. So, here's the thing. We know we are not asking for, what we're asking for is what we need as a city and what we need to do. If the public comes back to us and says, this is not the time or we need to rethink it, that's what we're going to do. And so I don't have a problem with that being put out there for the public to tell us, that this is the right or wrong direction to go. I am worried that we may not have all the cheerleaders behind this that we would like, but we don't want to continue to kick this down the road. So do we have directions from anyone on the commission or a motion?
May I say a few words?
Who is that? I'm sorry.
That's me, Patty.
Go ahead. Thank you.
You reminded me of a few things. I just wanted to comment that, that we're really asking the voters for permission, right, to go up to the 6%. And I think the commission I'm hearing, right, is committed, as we are, as staff, to minimizing any kind of increase. And the reason why we can't lock it in is there's a lot of variables right now. And one of those that stayed very late the other night, we submitted an application for what's called a WIFIA funding. It's a letter of interest. And we did that. We cannot pursue it if we're selected as and invited to apply. We cannot pursue that unless we have voter approval. And my hope in getting that in is that it will line up, right, with the elections, and that'll be one step forward. But the sad part is, if we do get that and we get authorization to borrow, if we don't have authorization to increase the rates, above the charter limit, again, we cannot pursue it. We had to submit a rate model. We had to show that we could support, taking out the loan. And that's what's been put before them. So I think it's important that the public hopefully has faith in your elected officials and protecting them and knowing that you're going to be adopting the final rates. This is not locking in any rates. We'll be coming back to you with the results of the election, updating the financial model, and then presenting any rate increase. And of course, our goal is to minimize that. So, thank you.
I think that's a very good point.
Commissioner Smith, and so I think we need to make it very clear to the public that they have a big say in all of this, including that if it passes, that they're going to get to tell us what they think the rate should be.
Right. All right, direction.
You want to make a motion, Commissioner Moore? I'll second it. You not want to make it? All right, I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2143, calling for an election to authorize water rate increase of up to 3% annually above the charter limit for 6 years to the electors of the city of Oregon City.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Only because I want to give the people of Oregon City the chance to have their say, knowing that when it comes before us, if it passes, I promise not to spend any more money than what we absolutely need. So I'll vote aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
I will also vote aye and concur with my colleague, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Oh, he's last. He's the chair.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, City
Thank you for
Commissioner.
your good work, Ms. Nelson.
All right, thank you. We are now moving, does anyone need a break or would we like to continue on? Okay. At any time throughout the meeting, if we need to call a break, let me know and we will. General business, item 9A, finalist for municipal judge appointment. And I believe that's our Human Resources Director, Patrick Boyles, or our City Manager.
Thank you, Commission President. I'll go ahead and take this. So Judge Lorraine McNeese retired June 1st of this year, and staff has been gathering and reviewing applications. Selection process has narrowed the potential candidates to the following: Amy Lindgren and Kimberly Graves. ORS 221140 authorizes cities to appoint, remove, and assign such powers to a municipal court judge as the City Commission provides. Chapter 2, Section 11 of the Oregon City Charter requires a municipal court judge be appointed by the City Commission. ORS 192660 requires an opportunity for the public to provide comment on the employment of city officers. So staff is recommending that the commission accept any public comment on the current two candidates for the vacant municipal judge position tonight. And then once that's completed, we'll continue with the review and selection process.
All right, with that, we'll ask if there is any public comment on this item.
And we did not have any public comment submitted to provide any testimony tonight. And anyone in the commission or in the chamber like to comment?
Judge Graves is in the audience.
I realize. Seeing none.
Rocky, Judge Graves is in the audience.
Oh, hello. All right, seeing no comments from the public, I guess we'll move on to Commissioner O'Donnell.
I think his hand's
You
still
say
up.
public. No, his hand is a fresh hand up. You don't need to referee me here. When I say public when it says public comment, are we saying public comment in a public forum or public comment submitted to HR for review, such as a vetting process?
And so this is, public comment to the commission from the public saying what, either specifically about the particular person as a judge or generally about the judge position. This provision allows the commission to then discuss the candidates in an executive session and, have a deeper discussion about what you want to see in the candidates and who you might prefer, and then come out and make its decision in the regular session.
Well, I'll simply say that I disagree with soliciting public comment in a public forum. And as a substitute for proper vetting by our own city staff. I mean, that allows anybody with a grudge to besmirch the candidate or whatever. If we want a background, let's do it properly. We can take comment from the public, but it needs to be directed to our HR department or those who are doing the hiring. I don't think I'd want to put any candidate in that position to sit up there and be verbally described by others.
Mr. Conkle, could you explain that ORS that you just cited earlier? Because I think there's a misunderstanding.
Yeah, Bill, do you want to talk a little bit about it? I think this is an opportunity for the public to provide any comments to the commission.
Yeah.
And, the actual, that will be considered as part of the hiring process of the commission as they go through the vetting process. Staff is certainly vetting applicants through the application and interview process, of which there was a process approved by the commission, of which commissioners and staff have been a part of. So this is just another step in that process to get to a final decision. What this does is it allows the commission to take any comments, whether they be verbal or written. And as far as I'm aware, we have not received any written comments concerning the candidates. Allows the commission to go to executive session for further review of the applicants before coming back to a public meeting to approve any contractual agreements that may come from that process.
And I understand the ORS as written. I agree with public comment provided in a confidential nature for review. I don't agree with making it in a public forum. I don't think the law calls for it to be made in a public forum, and maybe Mr. Kabizman wants to comment on that.
Sure. The law just says, in the case of an officer, which the municipal judge is, the public has had the opportunity to comment on the employment of the officer. And there's just not much guidance about what that means. And the thought was, what's a way to provide the most opportunity for the public to comment? And it's at a meeting. Certainly, if somebody wanted to provide confidential submission written, they could do that as well. But this is just an opportunity for somebody to come up and provide, whatever input they might have on the process of the candidates. It's something that the city has done in selecting city managers in the past as well. And so, that's generally the model that we used.
Do we need to make a motion on this particular?
There's no, I think, just accepting public comment. There was none submitted. I think we move on to the next item unless there's more discussion that the commission would like to have.
No, I just want to let the commissioners know that Commissioner O'Donnell and I have done a lot of due diligence. We have both had an opportunity to observe both candidates in a court setting, and that my recommendation is that we move forward to the next process to select one of them. They're both excellent candidates, and I think that I think it's just going to be a good process. So that's all I wanted to say to my fellow commissioners.
All right, any other comment? All right, seeing none, we will go on to 9B, the personal services agreement with Inflow Communications for Oregon City Operations Center. Public Works Director John Wood.
And I'll go ahead and take this one, Commission President. Thank you. The personal service agreement with Inflow Communications for the Oregon City Operations Center phone system and services. This is a contract agreement in the amount of $58,402.50 for the new phone system for the Oregon City Operations Center, which is consistent with the phone system that we've utilized at the library as well as the police department. Why this is on general business versus consent agenda is that when the original contract was let, it was bifurcated into a hardware, software, and support portion of the contract, which was under $50,000, and then a separate professional services portion for an additional $8,800. After reviewing the invoices that came in as well as the contract, it was determined that this should actually have been done as one contract as a new procurement within the new building overall budget. So these funds were allocated within the new operations, parks, public works and parks department complex budget. The contract should have been combined, which would have required, since it's in excess of $50,000, to come before the commission. So as part of this, we are bringing this forward to correct that error in bifurcating the two and requesting approval. The contract has been executed and the city has received shipment of the hardware, and some of the initial project initiation process has occurred. As part of this, we are looking at additional measures that we can put in place related to our contracting process with finance department that will avoid situations such as this, where the contract was bifurcated based on the software versus the long-term professional services.
All right. Any comments or direction? Commissioner O'Donnell.
I don't mind moving to correct this error, but I would simply say that if you look at the original invoice dated May 27th, it's got a total of $58,000 on it. So I don't understand why we would have bifurcated it, but it's not a major issue to me. Let's fix the procedural error and move on. So I would move to approve the motion as the item as presented.
I'll second. I just have a question.
Okay.
Did you want to ask your question?
Oh, yes, sorry. I didn't hear you say, okay, Rocky, thank you.
I did.
So with the new phone system, as with the phone system that went into the police department, so does this mean that people are going to get all new numbers, or they're taking their number with them?
That will be new numbers.
Okay, that's going to be confusing for the public, including myself as a member of the public.
Yep. And Commissioner O'Donnell, I appreciate what you saw. When we solicited the bid, it was for the hardware and the software component, and we received 3 bids. 3 of them provided the bids for the hardware and software. 2 of the companies did not provide the professional services, and Inflow provided that as an addendum to the contract. And so that was part of the confusion, I believe, here, was that we were requesting the hardware. What do the phones cost? And Inflow said, well, not only do they cost this, but this is the cost to implement them and put them in. And the other 2 companies didn't provide that service. So there were multiple unique things that happened on this one that we are going to move to address.
I'm not going to get hung up on it.
I understand. Thank you.
Could have been the package got dropped at your door, and it's like, what do we do with it now? We know we need an installation, so.
Thank you, sir.
You'll look at it.
Yep.
Good, yep.
I'll call for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
So Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, now we go on to 9C, Resolution 2102, adopting updated City of Oregon City Public Works Sanitary Sewer Design Standards.
Thank you, Commission. Thank you, Commission President. So This is a resolution, that's why it's under general business, and it's pretty straightforward. Josh Wheeler put most of the work into making the updates. He's in the audience if we need to talk through that with him, but the sewer design standards are kind of a standard document. We updated them in 2019. These are some more updates, many of which are minor. We were mostly trying to get included in there things with regard to pipe types as it pertains to sewer rehab and our sewer rehab program, so that's in there. There's obviously other things in there. We provided a red line version of the document as well. I don't know if the interest is to go through those, we sure can, but it seems pretty, our thought was, we don't have a presentation on this tonight. We thought it was pretty straightforward. But again, Josh is in the audience if we want to talk, if you want to ask any questions about any of the proposed changes.
All right, any questions or direction?
Were we going to get those really attractive manhole covers with 3D art on them?
It's not in our standard. They're expensive. We sure could, but we're trying to keep our costs low.
I understand. I happened to notice the other day in Portland that they have a lovely rose on their manhole covers.
And I know Lake Oswego has a sailboat, but I've heard many times that we're not the city of Lake Oswego, so
No,
we probably wouldn't put a wagon wheel or anything like that on our manhole.
No, we wouldn't, no. I'd like to move adoption of Resolution 2102, adopting updated City of Oregon City Public Works Sanitary Sewer Design Standards.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, question from Commissioner O'Donnell, real quick.
It refers to implementation of the I&I program, but that program has not been implemented as of yet, has it? And we certainly haven't decided how to finance it. Is that correct?
Well,
Mr. Lewis?
There was some yes and no. There was some concerns about the lateral policy in particular, and we are moving forward with the first project in the Rivercrest neighborhood. So we've got a design team in place, designing those plans in accordance with our budget. So these are the first project will be funded through the sanitary sewer system. Our intention is to bring that to you in a few months, and we are staying within the public right-of-way with those sewer system improvements. So we won't be dealing with the private property issues, but we are moving forward with a rehab program, which has been kind of a long-standing program. We are also, and you may be referring to the participation by Water Environment Services, and we are continuing to communicate with them about that. Their timeline doesn't line up well with our first project, but we've got capacity problems that we need to address. That was part of the moratorium project was, yes, upgrade the pipes, but don't upgrade them so much that you spend too much money on an upgrade project and instead deal with the upstream inflow and infiltration. So that's our plan at this point. We're putting together a bid package with a design firm that we awarded, 6 months ago.
I don't want to confound tonight's issue, so basically saying this does not include the laterals or how we're going to address those or the homeowner contribution to those. You're talking about public property.
That's correct.
Changes.
That's correct.
All
We'll
right,
take
thanks.
it. Yep.
All right, there's been a motion. Can we call for the vote? Motion and a second.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, now we have we have 9D, resolution number 2141, adopting a community vision statement for 2040. And I believe Community Development Director Laura Turway.
Thank you very much. Let's see, Katie's bringing up a PowerPoint, but we spent the last year with OC 2040, which is our comprehensive plan update, working with a wide variety of community members to understand people's vision for Oregon City in 20 years in 2040. Let's see, looks like there's still a little electronics going on.
wherever you want it now.
Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So we spent the last year listening to the community in a way that we never have before. We intentionally created new methods to speak to people who we previously hadn't spoken to and received a record number of input in this project. And we used that input to help craft a community vision for the next 20 years. That work was done through our project advisory team, through OC 2040, which is a diverse group of people. It's a large committee, around 35 members or so. That committee has drafted a vision. The commission saw that vision a few times, actually, as did the Citizen Involvement Committee. And the community had an opportunity to weigh in at an online forum. On the online forum, as in many of our components of the project, we had an English version as well as a Spanish version. We received shy of 100 community members weighing in on each of our vision statements. And with overwhelmingly support, liked a majority of each of the 4 statements. The last time we spoke, there were some edits to some of the draft vision statements. Staff has made those edits and are back requesting adoption. The vision statement is broken up into 4 pieces: healthy and welcoming community, diverse economy, connected infrastructure, and protected environment. I have the text of each of these. If there's any questions or concerns, I will save you from having to listen while I read it out loud because they can be rather lengthy. But we're here tonight requesting approval. And then also, since we are here and we're talking about the vision statement, let's see. Do you mind centering that slide a little bit? Thank you very much. We also wanted to invite you to the next step of our comprehensive plan, which is a series of summits on each of these topics. So each section of the vision statement will turn into a chapter of our comprehensive plan. And so we're talking about each of these at a series of online summits followed by in-person one-on-one conversations or community conversations the next day as well. So we'll do a lot more messaging before these come, but since we're here, we want to let you know what the next step in the comprehensive plan project is. We're proud to be moving on to the comprehensive plan section and happy that we have a solid base of input from the community on a community vision, which is really the driver for the whole project. It's telling us where we need to go. Now we'll work on those goals and policies to get us to that place. So with that, a little bit more than you need to know, but we're requesting approval for the community vision. I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
All right, questions from the commission or direction? Okay, I'm not seeing any, but I don't know if that's true.
He's turning the camera as I'm waving.
Thank you. Commissioner McGrath.
Yes, as a member of the project advisory team, the PAT, this has been worked on for quite a while, and it has been wordsmithed and tweaked and wordsmithed again. I think that it is, it's really, I think, good and solid. The thing that I want the commission to know is that while we were going through this, there were many questions about how these particular vision statements linked with our goals. And I can assure you that they were looked at. As a matter of fact, there's a chart that shows the vision document, others' policies, and then our goals and how they all line up. So I think you'll find that almost all the goals that we have line up into one of these 4 categories. Some are multiple, some only apply to one, but some, they pretty much apply to everything. So I feel very comfortable in asking for your approval of this and our approval of this so that we can move this forward. It is, I think, every planner's dream to go through a comprehensive plan update, not a million times, but more times than you were care to know. I'm trying to even think of how many times I've been through one of these. But more than I care to mention, let's just say that. And they've all been a little different. I've been through Oregon cities at least 3 times. This might make number 4. So And I think this has been a good process. When we did this in the past, we had many more neighborhood associations than we do now. And it was, I will say, from my standpoint and my recollection, it was very invigorating and very thorough. I think I went to a meeting almost every night, every week for months. But like I said, we had probably 15 neighborhood associations, and they were full of people who were interested in this particular topic. And I think this has been a testament to us getting the word out by bringing in people that normally would not have even bothered with this. But I think people are recognizing that they have an opportunity to make a difference in their community, and this is one way to do that. And I think it's been really good, and I hope they stick with it. It is a long process and can be a little draining, and I know it's a lot for staff, but we're going to get there.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll just say, I actually am happy with where this has gotten. I guess I was unhappy with the first several drafts. I still feel to some degree that it's not a big enough vision. My vision for Oregon City in 20 years has a lot more than this. And so I feel like we have to stop, obviously, wordsmithing things at a certain point. But for someone that I know that's going to be involved in this community 20 years from now, I hope we have a bigger, broader vision than just some of the things that are here in this document. So think big, and I think I will definitely support this, but I hope we can go beyond it. All right, is there a motion?
Somebody else make one. I've been making them tonight.
I can't make motions, people.
All right, I will move that we adopt Resolution 2141, adopting a community vision statement for 2040.
I'll second it.
All right, call for the vote.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. We are at 9E, second reading of ordinance number 21-1011, amending Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 1528, and establishing a public art mural program. And I believe this is Community Development Director Laura Turway.
Thank you very much. We're just asking for approval of the second reading of the arts program, and I just wanted to say congratulations to the commission. I know it's been a goal, not an official goal, but a goal for a very long time. So I'm just requesting approval of the second reading and a big congrats.
I found something I have a question about, and it is on under the Public Arts Murals 1528-090, Section B, number 7. We added rooftop murals to this, and yet number 7 says public murals should be located in a manner accessible to the public. I find that might be a conflict.
The intent of the rooftop murals was mainly geared towards, well, there's a lot of, I can see how that conflict can be there.
I just want to throw it out there. We might want to think about wording that, or because I mean, assuming accessible is visible from, you know, the promenade, et cetera, but that may not be what that intent of that line is.
Yeah, the discussion really was talking about downtown and having a mechanism to paint the rooftops downtown so you could see them from above, or maybe see them from a side street if the roof was sloped or something like that.
Can we add that clarification without it going back and starting all over again? Because I saw that too, Rocky.
Yeah, so the idea would be to change that language to located in a manner that is visible to the public or something similar to that? Or is, you know, to the extent we're changing the language, we'd have to read that
It's
section
not,
in
no, I'm
full?
not saying it's substantial, just
I know.
clarifying, because, you know, if I put it on my roof, that's not gonna, I mean, it can't be, but let's just say I had a commercial building, couldn't see it from my roof because it wouldn't be visible.
Right.
Hold on, let me think through a couple things. If it's
What, I mean, what are we?
Saying downtown.
I mean, essentially, this is addressing, the intent would be downtown, below the bluff, rooftop murals, which would be visible from the public
Right.
from up on the McLaughlin Promenade or Singer Hill, coming down the hill. So if you were up on top of the hill, I mean, I'm not sure where you would ever put a mural up on top of the bluff that wouldn't be visible,
Yep,
right? And there'd be no point.
nope.
The issue is that it says murals must be accessible to the public. A mural that's on a roof is not accessible to the public.
We could add the word visually accessible.
That's what
because
Bill
that's
was
the
suggesting,
intent.
that visible.
I think that's the intent, right? Is that they're visually accessible, not necessarily go up and touch it,
Right.
right?
But
I think that's the intent, right? Accessible being, be able to enjoy it, see it.
We don't know what the original intent was because the original intent did not include rooftop murals. So, you know, the way I read that, most murals that are on a wall surface are accessible to the public. They can see it, they can touch it, they can walk up to it. So I think, you know, now that we've added that, we just need to think about that word because I'm just pointing it out there.
Matt, you're
So it sounds like
muted.
we can't hear. Mr. Weintraub is speaking, we can't hear.
You have no sound, Matt. Okay, so would we like to add visually accessible?
That would clarify it for me. I don't know how Commissioner Smith feels about it.
I think that's okay. I mean,
I think that's the intent, right? Is to be able to, for the public to see it.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's okay. What do we have to do to change, to fix that? We have to do a first and second reading, a first reading again, or?
You don't necessarily need to do the first reading again, but you would need to read the entire section. You know, the charter says, unless each section incorporating such difference is read fully and distinctly in open commission, and all the changes are essentially one section. So it could be lengthy, or we could bring it back to you at your next meeting. And I don't know if Mr. Wine,
How long is that section?
it's 3 pages.
What are we defining as a section? All of 152809
15, yeah, you've got the title, chapter, and section.
Let's run it through the universal translator on like 15 speed.
We can go through it fast. It's gonna take a few minutes.
You're a great reader.
Would you prefer to just, sorry, Commissioner Smith, what were you gonna say?
There's other items on the similar topic. I would prefer to get them all done.
All right?
He's taking a drink of water. He's holding his breath.
I guess, is that the only change?
Yes, that's the only thing I saw.
Would the commission like us to read this in or bring it back in 2 weeks?
I'm with Commissioner Smith. Let's just do it.
So to do,
Concur, read it in, let's get it done.
okay, so to do that, we would need a motion and a second, and then Mr. Kabizman would read it in full.
I think we should make an exception and let you make the motion, Rocky, since this is something you've been working on forever. I know. I'm just saying I'm trying to be compassionate. I would like to move the second reading of ordinance 21-1011 as amended to say visually, was it visually available? No,
Accessible.
Visually accessible.
O'Donnell seconds it.
Okay. Let me go. Ordinance number 21-1011, ordinance of the City of Oregon City, amending Title 15, Buildings and Construction, Chapter 15.28, signs of the Oregon City Municipal Code, with amendments to Section 15.28090 to provide as follows. 15.28090, public art murals, public art mural program intent and purpose. The intent and purpose of this section is to encourage the production of public art murals for the acquisition by the city. Public art murals are a medium of expression which serves the public interest in unique ways, including but not limited to enhancing the aesthetics of the city, providing avenues for original artistic expression in the city, providing public education, edification through access to original works of public art, encouraging community participation in the creation of original works of art, and reducing the incidence of graffiti and other crime. The criteria for public art murals, all the following criteria shall be met for public art murals. 1, public art murals shall remain in place without alteration for a period of not less than 5 years, except as may be specified by a designated governing body by the Arts Commission and the conditions of approval. Within 30 days of the end of the approval period, the public art mural shall be removed unless a new approval is granted. Alterations to an approved and/or installed mural shall receive approval by a designated governing body or the Arts Commission. 2, no public art murals shall be allowed on single-family dwellings, duplexes, 3, fourplexes, designated historic structures that were originally constructed as residential use or multifamily dwellings. As used in this subsection, the single-family dwellings, duplexes, 3, fourplexes, or multifamily dwellings do not include mixed-use buildings which contain a single-family dwelling, duplex, or multifamily dwellings. Public art murals shall only be permitted within approved zoning districts. Approved zoning districts include 1, general commercial, 2, mixed-use downtown, 3, mixed-use corridor 1, 4, mixed-use corridor 2, 5, Willamette Falls downtown district, 6, institutional. B, any use that is listed under permitted use in the institutional district in 17.39.02, but located in a non-institutional zone. 4, the public art mural should be painted or ceramic, glass tiles, tesserae, or metal applied directly onto the surface of the building with the paint, ceramic, glass tiles, tesserae, or metal that ensures longevity, durability, and structural and surface stability. No part of the public art mural shall exceed the height of the structure to which it is tiled, painted, or affixed. 5, no part of the public art mural shall be placed over the exterior surface of any opening of a building in a manner that prohibits the use of opening, including its windows, doors, and vents. 6, no public art mural may contain electrical components, 3-dimensional structural elements, employs electrical lights as part of the image, moving structural elements, flashing or sequential lighting, interior lighting elements, any automated method that causes movement or any method that causes periodic change in the appearance, image, or message of the public art mural. 7, public art murals shall be located in a manner that is visually accessible to the public. 8, the mural proposal is not mechanically reproduced or computer generated and printed on a base that will be attached to the wall, such as by way of illustration, but not limitation, images digitally printed on vinyl. 9, the mural proposal shall include methods to mitigate the impacts of weather and vandalism and a commitment to repair the mural surfaces necessary for a minimum of 5 years. 10, no compensation will be given or received for the display of public art murals or for the right to place a mural on another's property. 11, the approval and acceptance of each public art mural shall be contingent upon the conveyance of a public art mural easement to the city from the owner of the building upon which the mural will be located and form approval by the city attorney. The terms of the easement shall grant the right to create the public art mural on the wall of the building and provide that the person granting the easement will maintain and restore the public art mural in its original condition for the period of the easement and state that upon termination of the easement, the mural shall be removed and the building restored to its prior condition. C, approval process. 1, the public art mural shall be approved by the Oregon City Arts Commission in a public hearing based on the criteria in the Oregon City Municipal Code. Notice of the application and the hearing date shall be published online and mailed to the applicant, recognized neighborhood associations, and the property owners within 300 feet of the proposed mural location. Notice shall be issued at least 20 days pre-hearing, and the staff report shall be available at least 7 days pre-hearing. At the evidentiary hearing held before the Arts Commission, all issues shall be raised and addressed. Failure to raise an issue at the hearing will preclude review on that issue. 2, in lieu of an active Arts Commission, the City Commission will review the proposal through the public hearing process described in subsections 15.28.00 and 090C1. D, the decision is appealable to the City Commission on the record. Notice of the appeal shall be received in writing by the Economic Development Director within 14 calendar days from the date of the challenge decision is provided to those entitled notice. Late filing of any appeal shall be deemed a jurisdictional defect and will result in the automatic rejection of any appeal so filed. 1, all the following shall be included as part of the notice of appeal. A, the city file and a number and date the decision to be appealed was rendered. B, the name, mailing address, and daytime telephone numbers for each appellant. C, a statement of how each appellant has an interest in the matter and standing to appeal. D, a statement of the specific grounds for the appeal. E, the appropriate appeal fee. Failure to include the appeal fee within the appeal period is deemed to be a jurisdictional defect and will result in the automatic rejection of any appeal so filed if a city recognized neighborhood association withstanding standing to appeal is voted to request a fee waiver pursuant to Oregon City Municipal Code Section 17.50.290C. No appeal fee shall be required for an appeal filed by that association. In lieu of the appeal fee, the neighborhood association shall provide a duly adopted resolution of the general membership board approving the request for fee waiver to standing appeal. Only those persons who recognize neighborhood associations who have participated either orally or in writing have standing to appeal the decision. Grounds for appeal are limited to those issues raised in writing before the close of the public record. No new evidence shall be allowed. 3, notice of appeal hearing. The Economic Development Department shall issue notice of the appeal hearing to all parties who participated in writing before the close of the public record at least 20 days pre-hearing, and the staff report shall be available at least 7 days pre-hearing. Notice of the appeal hearing shall contain the following information: A, the file number and date of the decision be appealed; B, the time, date, location of the public hearing; C, the name of the applicant, owner, and appellant if different; D, the street address or other easily understood location of the subject property; E, a description of the permit requested in the applicant's mural proposal; F, a brief summary of the decision being appealed and the grounds for appeal listed in the notice of appeal; G, a statement that the appeal hearing is confined to the issues raised in the notice of appeal; H, a general explanation of the requirements for participation in the city's hearing procedures. For the city commission on decision on appeal is the city's final decision. No person shall commence creation of any public art mural without first obtaining approval from the city and executing an easement pursuant to section 15.28.090B11. Murals that are created without approval through the aforementioned process that are not otherwise exempt pursuant to this chapter or inconsistent with the conditions of approval from the city's decision shall not be deemed public art murals.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right.
I think you're going to see a hydro flask being thrown across the room.
Now we'll call the.
So now we'll call the vote. Sorry.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
After that effort, what can I say but aye?
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
And Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye, thank
Motion.
you. All right, 9G, Resolution 2145, establishing a schedule of fees for the Oregon City.
44.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I jumped ahead. 9F, Resolution 2144, adopting a historic review board policy for public art murals.
I'd like to introduce Kelly Reed, planner with the city.
Do we need a report? I'm ready for the motion.
Go for it.
I'd like to move we adopt Historic Review Board Policy for Public Art Murals, Resolution 2144.
Second.
All right.
Great report, Kelly.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
And Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. 9G, Resolution number 2145, establishing a schedule of fees for the Oregon City Public Art Mural Program. I believe this is Economic Development Director? Or is it Matt?
It's going to be first me.
I have
Okay.
one recommendation.
This is just, Matthew, there's an update that we need to provide you on the fee. And Matthew,
Yes.
and since
Go
Matthew
ahead.
did the research on it, he'll make the update for you. Go ahead, Matthew.
All right, can folks hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Right, awesome. Yeah, so we just had a miscommunication among staff, and so the update, so that the mural appeal fee mirror the historic review board appeal fee as well. So that's the update there, why you have a clarification to your packet.
Just state the number, the old number that was stated and the new number, please.
Yeah, so the old number was $1,541, and the new number is $250.
Thank you.
So those of you that are at the dais have a copy of that in front of you,
Yes.
and those of you that are on Zoom got that emailed to you earlier.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm happy to, and there is a justification for both the mural permit fee and the fee of the appeal. I'm happy to answer any further questions about those as well.
Denise has a question.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, I have a suggestion. we had a lot of discussion about the different types of fees for Historic Review Board, and I believe we discussed quite a bit that we wanted to make this accessible, and we have. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're looking at the fee would be annually adjusted for inflation, January 1, sort of the CPI. I think if on this particular fee and the fee for HRB, I would like to suggest that we delete that in this policy statement, because I think if we need to raise it, we should discuss that first after, because I said, we had a very long discussion about HRB fees and appeal fees. So I would like to just keep it as it is, and if we need to adjust it, it can always come back to the commission. I don't want it to be adjusted automatically. I can't imagine anybody gonna appeal an art mural, but you never know, so. So that is my suggestion. It's not part of the, it's in the second part that we just received today about the explanation. So Bill, I don't believe that's in the resolution, so it's just, I'm just making that suggestion. I'm happy with the resolution. Just want to make sure that the appeal fee stays reasonable.
We would remove, I believe in resolution 2145, we would remove section 2. The fees identified in Exhibit 1 shall be adjusted annually on January 1, 2022 through January 1, 2027, based on CPI. W for Portland, Oregon, adjusted fees will be rounded to the nearest dollar. So if we're going to hold it static, we would remove that inflationary clause.
Section 3 would become section 2.
Like I said, I really don't see that we're going to have a rash of appeals for murals. I really don't. If I'm proved wrong, we can come back.
But you're referring to both the permit and the appeal?
Mainly just the appeal. I haven't seen the fees go up for the HRB applications. This pretty much stated. And again, we had a long discussion about that when we were reviewing the fees for Community Development Department.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the commission? Are we holding both the $250 and the $125 static, or is the $250 gonna remain static and the $125 is gonna go up per inflation?
If we take it out, it'll apply to both. So I don't know what my fellow commissioners say about that. They're so speechless now, so.
They can make a motion and
Okay,
test out.
I'd move that we adopt a resolution 2145, eliminating section 2 and making section 3 section 2.
And for clarity, we would be adopting the newer prices that you
Yes.
received, not the original ones.
No,
Second that.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we have the two items, and that we pulled from the consent agenda, the 9H, which is removal of a tree adjacent to 419 Fifth Street. We had a letter from a citizen regarding this issue. We have some comments or questions by commission, I think, as well. Commissioner McGriff, do you have something to say on this?
Yes, I just want to make the request that we do go ahead and replace a tree there, not join the two driveways together and make the rest of the street, make the apron the way it should just be two separate driveways. I know, I can see our staff person saying, well, that might cause people to hit it, but if everybody's gone and looked at the street, Mr. Belknap basically makes a point that there aren't really any other street trees on that street, and I would not have supported putting the tree someplace else in the neighborhood. I think it needs to be on that street. And we need to look at how, hopefully when the Friends of Trees program, we can get some more street trees on there, because this would actually basically be the only one. If you look at the aerial that was submitted with the staff's report, that would help. So actually, there is another one over on to the left there, but it's pretty devoid down there. You get towards the employment office or work source, and it's like there's nothing there. So that would be my suggestion.
All right. I have one question before we go into this a little deeper. 7B is a reconstruction of a roadway, which just so happens to be this exact same roadway. And my question is part of the reconstruction of the roadway referring to in the change order, including the sidewalks, or is it just the street?
It would, in that area there, it would include the sidewalk as well. So we have repair work that would have to happen in order to do, so yeah, the change order it includes the driveways and the sidewalk around the tree. Is that correct? Yes.
It's very sneaky how basically the wording in that agenda item mentions nothing about that being an issue for redoing that section of street, which is totally, completely why you're redoing that section of street and adding it to it. So to completely avoid that in mentioning it is bizarre, because it really goes to how you're going to fix the sidewalk. And the only reason you're fixing the sidewalk is because you're removing that tree. So I agree with, the fact they're completely joined together. It's completely obvious they're joined together. And not to mention that in the staff report is weird. So I guess my point is this: both property owners don't have an argument with removing the tree. They also say that staff kind of was not exactly, right with the answers that they gave in support of the driveway, et cetera, and the sidewalk, which is why I'm assuming it's not mentioned in the 7B item. I don't mind if there is a tree planted back there. I think it would be great if we could plant a tree back there that doesn't, I don't know if it needs to be the same tree or what.
No.
If we don't replant a tree there, I still think you need to have the planter space, and I think you still need to have two separate driveways. That's part of the entire character of that block is having, if you put one giant one bright driveway in there, it changes the whole character of that block. It's a residential block, even though those buildings are used commercially. So I would love to see a tree planted in there, but if we can't do that and the commission doesn't force that, at least we need to have the sidewalks, two separate driveways, and the planter strip contained still there.
I love the fact that we got this historic photograph showing the house, and I love the fact that you look at it and you can see what was across the street where there's a parking lot now. So I'm like, okay, that is very cool.
Commissioner Smith, you want to hear?
I have one additional question. Let me ask, are we going to redo the sidewalks on that whole block?
No.
To be consistent, or are we going to match, kind of? Okay, so we're only going to do the section of sidewalk that pertains to that tree?
I'm gonna just, as far as, I'm gonna ask Josh to come up, because I'm not exactly sure how much, but I'm pretty sure, just like what we've done in other section of High Street, it's kind of a patch the sidewalk where it needs to be. And it's really the curb in this case that the curb has been fully engulfed by the tree. So it's kind of a combination, but yes, Josh?
So yes, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Thank you, commissioners. The reason we are resurfacing Fifth Street is because we did a water main replacement in it earlier this year. As the design, I'm sorry?
I really just have a specific question. Are we only redoing the sidewalks near that tree, or is it the entire block?
If I could answer that question,
That's what I.
Because there's some misinformation in this presentation that I'd like to clear up. We are resurfacing it, and when the designers looked at that, they realized that the tree was out into the roadway, and so therefore, we had to replace the curb. To replace the curb, we had to remove the tree. To remove the tree, we have to replace that section of sidewalk. When we resurface roads, we do not go and fix the other portions of the sidewalk. That's for the personal property owners to take care of. We've had several conversations with the property owners. I had one with them at 2:00 today. We all came to an agreement that we would keep 2 driveways. We actually have to pour 2 new driveways for them. We will be putting a tree in between those 2 driveways. We have a very specific tree that the arborist has recommended to put there for the best chance to live. And then we are keeping that wood for one of 2 people who have showed interest in the use of that wood. So we have fully vetted the whole process and ensured that we're following the proper mitigation as well.
A question. I thought that we had said if there was any trees that we were taking out, we were going to keep the wood. We were not giving it away to somebody.
What we've done with the wood is, most of the wood is not good
Usable.
quality.
Yep.
We can do one of 3 things. We can store it in our building for a while, for whatever future purpose. The adjacent property owner has asked if he can have it for his purposes, since it's in front of his property. And we have a woodworker who looked at the tree and is interested in using it for creating various wood pieces as well. But I do not, I admit, I do not know the policy on what we're supposed to do with the wood, except for look for a place to use it.
So since the item was pulled, we asked the arborist to give us, because we didn't hear this from you, Commissioner McGriff, but we heard from an NRC member about concern for reuse of the wood. So we asked the arborist to look at it and these trees, and one of the challenges with this idea of reuse, first of all, I'm not always sure what reuse means to everyone. Some people means, you're gonna refinish your benches with it or something like that, or you're going to build something out of it. Other means that it's going to be used for firewood. In this case, the arborist, his report has kind of indicated that really it's hard to know exactly what condition that tree will really be in, whether or not it's going to be usable at all. We suspect there's some of it that will be, and this is where this, interestingly enough, it was just Jason Thornburg from our street department has been, sending feelers out about, well, who uses wood of this type? I will say this about about reuse of wood. It's costly. Trying to figure out how to reuse the wood is very, very costly, and we're not really set up for it. I do feel like, as we continue to talk about tree issues, this would be a perfect assignment for an urban forester, for instance, right? Try to connect the woodworkers or the wood craftsmen with wood that makes sense. That's a program in itself right there, just kind of keeping figuring that out. Where do we store the wood? What size chunks does it need to be in? All those kind of things. Do we let a wood craftsman, for instance, come on the site when the contractor's trying to remove the tree to cut out their selected pieces? All those things are challenges when we deal with a tree removal. And so in this case, we recognize that it is an important tree. It's a cherry tree. We don't know the condition of that wood when it comes down, so we're gonna do our best to try to reuse it. And we can make that space work. We don't recommend it because it's in a very, these planter strips are narrow anyway, and putting the driveways into 2 driveways. Right now there's pavement between building to building, right? It used to be those buildings, if you look in that historic photo, had lawn between those 2 buildings. Now, over the years, they've pretty much built a parking lot that manages several cars. How do we accommodate that? We're gonna have to do it with, smaller driveways. And when we do that, we will have some gap between those that would accommodate a tree. And if that's the commission's desire, we will do that. It's we've picked a smaller tree. The arborist has recommended a crepe myrtle.
Be perfect.
And so, and that's on the street tree list for that size planter strip. It's just, so all of that. And I would say, Commissioner Smith, the challenge with these street projects is they're generally paving projects. And I would say that when we looked at this particular project, the consultant recognized that there was a tree issue there. And we asked our street supervisor to go out. He made contact with all these property owners, and he came away with the understanding that they wanted the driveways connected. With the letter that we got from Mr. Buss, he made that clear that wasn't necessarily what, I think it's not Mr. Buss, but it's
Mr. Belknap.
Mr. Belknap. He didn't bring it up then, but that was weeks ago. So to be honest with you, getting back in touch with him today was something that Josh went out and took care of and tried to mitigate where we're at right now. So
Okay, let's ask some very specific questions here.
okay.
All right? Because here's what your report says. Your report says that you're not going to replace the tree at all, and that you're going to put the sidewalks together. And your report says that you're going to put a tree in the McLaughlin neighborhood. So if that is not what you're saying now, then at what point were you going to tell us that? Today? I mean, it was on the consent agenda. So did you just know we were going to pull it? And then the other report, basically what you've just said tonight is that the only reason that sidewalk is being replaced and the only reason that street section is being added is because of that tree, which is not mentioned at all in the other report. So now you're saying that today, you guys basically, so this report that we have that we looked over today has been changed today, essentially, is what's happening. We were not notified of that, and it wasn't put into an amendment in our report, and you were just going to let it slide through, and it's only now that you're saying, oh, well, we changed our minds today?
That is
I
not,
really want to know what.
No, that's not
Well,
correct.
then
I'll explain that,
Hang
sir,
on,
if you would
Josh.
like.
Let me answer one question. So I alerted Mr. Lewis that I was going to ask for this to be pulled from the agenda because I had received additional information from Mr. Belknap personally about wanting to have a tree there. So that's why. So I let them know ahead of time.
Did you hear from staff, though, today that they'd already changed their mind and they were going to fix it? Because why would you have pulled it tonight then?
No,
Obviously, you pulled it tonight. You still didn't know an answer to that.
I didn't pull it tonight.
The item was requested to be pulled earlier today, and we were notified about that. And so therefore, we tried to address the concern of why the item was being pulled. The sidewalk was never being redone because of the road. The road was done because of the water main, and the tree is in the way of being able to resurface the road. And, and the others, yes, sir?
My question is this. Did you inform Commissioner McGriff today that you were replacing the tree because of the concern that was stated, and that you were going to actually, in fact, do two separate driveways? Did you tell her that today when she asked to pull it?
No, we did not, because we found out through a third party, and we found out about 1 o'clock today. To address the concern, we went to see if there were other options. We did the report last week. We had no chance to redo the report, and therefore, we're here tonight to explain it because we knew it was going to be outside of the consent agenda. Our recommendation stands in the report, but that's not what the desire is.
Excuse me. Here's my point. If you made a decision sometime at 1 o'clock, any time between now and the start of the meeting, you could have sent an email saying this issue has been resolved, and we would have known that. Because tonight, if we didn't know that, that commission agenda would have been gone through to the consent agenda without even you responding to it. Why would you have at the beginning of the meeting say we've addressed this issue, it's been pulled? It's bizarre.
Well, I can take full credit for that. I just didn't realize. I assumed, and I didn't know exactly what Commissioner McGriff was pulling it for. I made some assumptions, and I asked staff to look into it.
Like at 1 o'clock, you already had a solution?
Well,
I mean, none of your answers make sense.
When people provide us questions, we seek answers.
Yeah, there's not, there was the age and the condition of the tree, and we thought we had good decision around that. The replanting and the reuse, that was the question, that was the only things that we thought were left. So we tried to have answers for you tonight.
So Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
can I try to diffuse this? I appreciate the fact that the staff went back out. I was contacted by Mr. Belknap after I'd already requested to pull it because I was going to recommend that we put a tree in, figure out how to put a tree in. I know that the property owner, Mr. Belknap, will be more than happy to water the tree and make sure that it survives because, well, that's kind of how Wendell is. So I think given the circumstances, the staff went up and beyond the call of duty. They contacted people. I'm really satisfied with their suggestion. I like the idea of the crepe myrtle. It's not a little bit out of the norm, but I think, again, when the city is taking out a tree, we have an obligation to go a little bit above and beyond the call of duty because we, again, as I've stated before, we need to set the example to the community that this is what happens when you take a tree out. We're not the people that are going around whacking them down and then not doing anything about it. We're saying, hey, we're taking this tree out. We've got an opportunity. We're going to try to put a tree in there. And I think they're doing the right thing. I want to support them in this. I appreciate the fact that they contacted Mr. Belknap. His son-in-law, Mr. Buss, responded, and they probably collaborated on the email. So I know the email went out this morning because I saw a copy of it. So I don't want to beat staff up. They did not have the opportunity to make a change, but they've made the change now. They're here now saying this is an option. So I want to clarify a couple things for Mr. Lewis. So when we talked about reuse of the tree, so we have a gavel down there that was made out of a tree that came down. We have a gavel at the police department that we don't know what happened to it, but maybe we can get the woodworker to make us another. So we have a backup gavel out of cherry that we could have, and then he could have the rest of it. When I talk about reuse, we have a table in the back that we've taken some wood, we've used, and I know it's a little bit above and over the call of duty, but we have that now. I love going in that conference room and using that table because it's something that came out of one of our parks. Firewood is not my idea of reuse unless the wood is so deteriorated that that's probably the only thing it's good for. So if you can get some good pieces out of it, I know Jim Hall, who's a former planning commissioner, is a woodworker. He's got contacts through other people who are woodworkers in our community, and I think Jim might have made that gavel. So if you can see if we can get a gavel out of that, that'd be great for the other rooms. So we have the city gavel, and then there's the court gavel. That would be terrific, or a bowl or something. I mean, we should get a little something back because, wood is valuable. And I'm sure this person would be very happy to do it. I'm just guessing, but that's my idea. So thank you very much for going above. And this is a good example of the city walking its own talk, which I really appreciate.
All right. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that I don't disagree with, all of what you just said. However, I was going to pull this agenda item anyway because of the same kind of questions that we had regarding the letter from citizens. And what I'm saying is, if staff would have at any point today sent an email saying it's been resolved, this whole thing wouldn't even have been pulled from the agenda meeting tonight. And so my comment is, why didn't we hear that? Because we would have actually saved ourselves a whole hell of a lot of time. The communication is really lacking here. If the staff would have said, we are changing our report and the report that we've submitted is completely not accurate, we could have got an email to us today before the meeting that would have clarified that, and it would have never got pulled from the agenda. That's what I'm saying.
Understood.
This is why we're having trust issues here, and we don't trust some of these reports, because that could have very easily been communicated. And instead, what it looks like is, you changed your plan today, and you didn't change your report or even notify it, and you only did because it was pulled. That's what it appears. So let's clean things up a little bit. All right, we're gonna move, I think that's our last item. Are we gonna, so let me make sure this is clear. We're replanting the tree. We have a planter strip that's gonna be there. And we're gonna have 2 separate driveways, 2 separate aprons, correct?
Correct.
And we're also adopting change order number 1, which I would so move.
And we are only, and are we only doing that section of roadway where that tree is?
So, Commissioner Smith, the intention is to include that. We've got all of High Street, the remainder of High Street to do, and we're gonna run down that section of Fifth Street all the way to Center. The driveways and the sidewalk are really the only concrete work that we're gonna be doing.
Okay, my question is very specific in terms of Fifth Street on the side that the tree is. Is that sidewalk going to be done the full block?
No.
So it matches? We're going to have one section by the tree that doesn't match? Because when you said that the tree has taken over the curb, the tree hasn't taken over the curb. There's no curb. There's no curb really pretty much along that whole block. So we're going to put a new curb in, or are we not putting a new curb in that whole street segment? It's going to be the 1 inch curb that's really there for that block?
Right, it'll match that curb height. You're right, those are lower curbs than our standard, but they're the historic standard, so we're gonna match that. But we're only gonna replace the pieces that we need to replace on that block. And the only place where we really need to fix anything is in the area of where the tree is and where the driveways are at.
Okay, so matching sidewalk, a tree, two aprons, and 2 driveways. That's what I'm gonna see when this is done, because if I don't, it's gonna be an issue.
Okay.
All right, so we had 2 separate items here. You made a motion, Commissioner McGriff, to
Yes, I
deal
did.
with the first and second one.
Nobody seconded it yet.
Was it for the both?
Yes, it was for
issues?
both items.
I will second it.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Commission President Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, I believe that we are on to, I think that's the complete agenda with the exception of, let me find my agenda here really quick. All right, so we have communications, we have city manager.
Thank you. I have no updates for tonight.
All right, commissioners.
I have one. I want to second what Dee Dee Dalsford said about the stone wall. I went back through some communications and discovered that the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association had indeed submitted a request during the application for that particular parcel at 7th and Harrison that the stone wall be preserved as part of the development because it's one of the character defining features of the neighborhood. These walls exist all over the neighborhood and they do make the neighborhood what it is, the way they're cut, the way they're designed. I appreciate the fact that the city is going to be able to reuse some of it because you never know, unfortunately, somebody's going to run into it with their car. I think the car will get the worst part of the damage and the stone will survive. But we have like material to put back to make these walls whole. Even some of the stuff on the promenade it's similar stone. So I really, really appreciate that. And I believe a lot of this is outlined in the survey documentation for the McLaughlin Conservation District, that these walls exist all over the place. So staff has stepped up. Again, I want to thank the staff for their quick action. I want to thank you for responding to me about going out in the field and talking to 411, 419 about the tree. I don't totally agree with Commissioner Smith's approach. I understand where you were coming from, but you guys went the distance. I know that I wasn't specific at the time I sent you the request because I was still going over and looking at it myself again and saying, okay, could we do this? And you came up with a solution that I would have probably come up with and I wasn't able to get back to you to let you know. So I just want the staff to know that I appreciate your extra work. It makes my life simpler. I know that the property owners are going to be happy about that. Maybe not the one on the corner, but hopefully they'll get that picture of the house and they'll be able to look at their property because I kept thinking, oh, is that lattice still there? Maybe they'll put it back. So I want you to know that I appreciate all of you and your work. And Bill, thank you for reading all of that. The mural code is something that Rocky and I have been trying to get back, mostly Rocky, but I was behind him all the way on this, and it's important that we get that implemented. I understand we have lots of people that are applying for the mural commission, the Arts Commission, and I'm so excited about that. I've had a number of the Three of Rivers Arts people tell me how happy they are, so yay, we're getting there. And it wasn't dead, it was just kind of in stasis. So I chastised the newspaper people. I said, why did you say it was dead? It was sleeping. So it's back. And I know we'll all do a good job with that. And I'm looking forward to seeing some more interesting murals and some repair work. But thank you, staff, for all of your hard work. I appreciate it. You are appreciated by me. So thank you.
Any other reports? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned.